You are the audience. That is the discussion point we're going to be talking about today on this video. When you are creating your first draft, you are the audience. Not your mom, not your dad, not your cousins, not your uncles and aunts, not your best friends, not the writing community on Instagram or Tumblr or wherever they are. It is yours. You determine what works for you in your story. This is very important for the Pantser method. We're not working with any predetermined structure per se. The only structure we have is what we internalize from the stories that we had watched and read over our lifetimes thus far. You already know what makes a good story. You already know what you like and dislike. So for this first draft, when you're writing your story out, you determine what happens next. In the Pantser method, we really depend on engaging our inner reader as we write. So for now, if you are going to try this method and you never had done it before, think to yourself, what would I like to read? What would I like to have on my bookshelf? What is missing in my library or in my bookstore or on my Kindle? What is not out there that I could bring to the table? That's your story. Your story could be based in Africa. It could be based on Mars. It could be based in a distant past or a future that we may never see in our lifetimes. Doesn't matter. It is yours. And you want to make this story because you haven't seen this yet. This is something that you have wanted to do since you could ever remember. And it's deep inside of you. So when you are contemplating what type of story you're going to write for this method, think about the story that you want to see on your bookshelf, that you will love to read, that you are not seeing anywhere else. I also suggest choosing a story that you are most passionate with characters that you would like to explore, and a setting that engages your interest. Because again, you're the audience. This is something you're going to be dealing with for a long time. A book is an investment. It takes about 5 years for it to be published from the very moment you put the words on page. For the first draft, it may take you a year, maybe a little bit longer. Or for those who are quite prolific, it may be just a few months for you. But I want you to look for a story inside of you that you want to put on paper. Don't worry about creating an outline. Don't worry about how it's going to end. Don't worry about all the other structure points, the pinch points, the breaking to the second act, all those layman terms. Just disregard them. Pick a story that you love to write. If you just have a glimmer of just what the opening sequence is, if you only have a slight feel of what the main protagonist might be, if you sort of have an idea of what the world might be, jot that down on your journal. Despite what the myth says, we do use our journals. But don't worry about organizing it. Don't worry about making it pretty. Slap it down there, because you're going to use your head and your heart to put it on your first draft. So just get it down there for a moment. Whatever comes up to your mind, that sounds great. If you have a hard time choosing which type of stories you want to create, pick the one you're most passionate about, something that you are emotionally engaged with. Don't worry about if it's a fan fiction. If that is something that drives a deeper meaning within you, go ahead and use that. That fire, that passion is going to help carry you through your writing process. Ultimately, when you are stuck with writer's block, you have to think to yourself, what happens next? Always remember this rule: you are the audience. What would you like to see happen next? What would you like to read on the opening page? What would you like to see that comes around the corner? And this first draft is for you. It's about getting that story down on paper. That's all that it is. Don't worry about making it pretty as you write the story out. Don't worry about adhering to industry standards. Unless you like to multitask, that's okay. Editing is going to help restructure your story and translate your story to the audience. But you don't need translating for the first draft. What you need to do is to transfer. You don't need to translate, you don't need to format it, you just need to put it down. So all I'm gonna ask of you is get into this mindset where no one else has permission to tell you what you should or should not put down on your paper. You are the judge, you are the audience. You determine what works for your story. If you are asking for people's opinions, don't be rude. Just take it with a pound of salt. But ultimately, you decide what sounds good to you and what fits in your current story. Next week, we're going to talk about how to start the opening image and how to do that from a blank page. But for now, for your homework, think about the stories that you want to write about. Jot down the images that come to your mind. Don't worry about the whole world or the whole story. Just get them down on paper. And by the time of next week, select the story you like to work with. And we'll go from there. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you want to ask any questions or any help in this type of stage, that's okay. If you want me to explain a little bit further, go ahead and put that all down in the comments. I will read them. If you have any suggestions or any help that you need in the process further along, it's okay to put them down in the comments too. I will get around to talk about those points as I go through this method. But for now, this is the beginning. And I hope you like this video. And I hope this inspires you to find your voice and your story. See you later.